I'm at Prince Gallitzin State Park, and it's June 8th, I believe, and I haven't actually fished since Memorial Weekend. I did pretty well, pretty decent, actually, Memorial Day. Memorial Weekend wasn't so much great, but like Memorial Day was, I kind of redeemed myself. And one thing that I did on Memorial Day was I used this Z-Man spinner, and I believe it's like a bluegill pattern with a hint of orange in the bottom, and it has like these brass colored, golden colored blades on it. And I'm using a trailer. It's Yum Pearl Pulse trailer. That's actually, it's like a paddle tail. And actually I was catching some fish off that, so I really thought that, you know, after all the rain that we had today, and actually it's been raining for a couple of days, as usual, it is Pennsylvania, I wanted to come out here and try, in the evening, try some evening fishing, try to get myself a nice bass, just using a spinner. I really don't want to go to anything else. I only have about an hour to fish. So let's see what I can do with this, and I'm kind of excited about using the spinner because it's like the spinner activity is like really like seem to be picking up. So let's see what I can do with this. See if I can catch a nice fish. And I'm casting, I'm going to run my spinner right alongside this stump, and I know I'm going to catch a fish. Well, there's been a slight change of plans, and that's because like on the third cast I lost my Z-Man spinner. It's out there. It's out there about 20 feet, so there's one I'm going to have to come out and try and retrieve because like I just bought it and I can't let it go that easily. So what I'm going to do is substitute the Whopper Plopper 110 and try and do a little topwater. You know, see if it's topwater time here in central Pennsylvania at Prince Gallitzin State Park. I lost my Z-Man spinner after like the third cast, but I ended up getting this nice jerk bait. So I don't know, maybe it was a fair trade. Yeah. Got one, yeah. He hit that sucker. That's a nice one. Is that a bass? It's fighting. Come on, stay on there. Stay on there. Stay on there. That's a bass. That sucker is... There. Yeah, that's a bass. Come on. Stay on there. Holy shit, that thing's still fighting. Is it a bowfin? It is a bowfin. Huh. Bowfin on a Whopper Plopper. You gotta be kidding me. Put up a hell of a fight. Still fighting. Do bowfin have teeth? I'm not even sure how you pick up a bowfin. And he ain't gonna let me right away, that's for sure. This is where you need a net. Wasn't anticipating this. Get out of the sticks. Well, at least I didn't lose my Whopper Plopper. And the bowfin didn't get harmed. And it's getting late. And I don't feel like walking up through the woods in the dark, because there was something big up there crashing through the woods whenever I came down. Well, that was pretty exciting, catching that bowfin. I didn't expect that one bit. I thought maybe a muskie or a bass. Never a bowfin. A friend of mine caught one a couple years ago on a night crawler while we were fishing off the pontoon boat. But I caught this thing. That fish really whacked that Whopper Plopper. Holy heck, that just actually startled me. I wasn't expecting that. That fish was powerful. I had a hard time bringing it in. And just the situation that I was in, the setup with the rocks and everything, I couldn't like bring it to shore. I just wasn't prepared for a fish that heavy and that big. And then I wasn't sure if it had teeth or not, so I was kind of a little unnerved by the whole thing. Glad that I didn't go ahead and stick my fingers in its mouth, but I recovered my Whopper Plopper. So now I learned something tonight, that the bowfin will go after like a Whopper Plopper, topwater, any kind of a bait like that. All right, well, that's it for tonight. It's getting dark. It's just another one of those nights where I'm heading out, you know, nearly by moonlight. So I will see you guys tomorrow bright and early. Well, I'm going to tell you, I am so tired. This fishing thing is so exhausting. Get up at like 5 in the morning and go fishing, and then come home and do yard work and all that stuff. It's tough. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the bowfin, because I caught my first bowfin, and I really didn't have any exposure to bowfins at all. And like I think I said in my video that a friend of mine had caught a bowfin on a night crawler, and I think like I remember like maybe 20 or 30 years ago when we used to do some night fishing, we might have caught a few bowfin here and there. But I always thought like a bowfin was something just like a, you know, like a carp or a catfish, where it just, you know, kind of a bottom feeder. But I did a little bit of research on it and found out some interesting facts on the bowfin. So I'm going to call this little segment, I'm going to call these segments that I do on fish, or like little educational segments. They're not too deep or anything like that. I'm not going to try and get all scientific, but I'm going to call these like fishing school. Like this first segment that I'm doing on my very first fishing school segment on bowfin, just going to give you a few details on the bowfin that I dug up. And I got this all off of Wikipedia, so I didn't look into it too much, but just take it for what it's worth. And if you if you can hear the background, I have Fishing with Gramps on going in the background. I listen to Fishing with Gramps quite often. So anyway, let's talk about the bowfin. So the typical size of a bowfin is 20 to 26 inches, but they can reach 43 inches, and they weigh up to 21 and a half pounds. Females are larger than males, typically. The bowfin, they're related to gars. The bowfin are referred to as a primitive fish because they really haven't changed much since their ancestors. Like, they have a lot of the same characteristics as fish from, I don't know, 500,000 years ago. I don't know what the timelines are. Wikipedia didn't tell me, but they are a primitive fish, or similar to a primitive fish. And they are native to eastern United States and up into Canada and Ontario. And the bowfin is actually a stalking and ambush predator, which really surprised me. I just always thought that a bowfin was just like I said, like a bottom feeder, like a catfish or a carp, or feeding off of night crawlers. But I found out with my Whopper Plopper, the way that thing hit my Whopper Plopper, it just that thing definitely was it's a predator fish. It really is. I was really surprised. That thing hit so hard. That thing hit so hard. Like, I read somewhere where they hit hard like a pike, and I'm trying to like recall the last pike that I caught, and that thing fought way harder than the last pike that I caught. Now, that pike wasn't actually very big at all, but That was a hard fight. That bowfin was a hard fighting fish. Um, they are very prevalent in rivers, lakes, swamps. They live, or not live, but they pretty much like hide under roots, weeds, and logs. And where I caught that fish was it was like kind of like a little cove. It was right off of a rocky area where like this rocky area. I was hoping to catch a bass, like a largemouth or a smallmouth. But then this little cove, it was a real muddy area, and I do catch a few bass in there. But there's a lot of weeds and stuff growing around in that cove, and it's not very deep. It's probably maybe only like, I mean, I might be like 3 feet. Probably because like you're sinking in like a foot of mud, so it's really probably only like 2 feet. But that's where I caught it, and according to this like Wikipedia, like that's where the bowfin actually they hang out in like those types of areas. Yeah, and so they prey on fish, crawfish, insects, and whopper ploppers. So Oops, sorry. So you never know. I mean, I totally wasn't expecting to catch that bowfin, and I caught it. And I remember when my friend caught a bowfin, and he was like, "Wow, that's a bowfin," and like he didn't expect it. And it's just you don't catch them very often, and you don't expect to catch them. They breathe water and air, and I read this. Not I didn't get this off of Wikipedia, but I got this off of another website. That the reason they fight so hard, and if you watch this full video, like you'll see like this fish wouldn't give up, and it hit so hard. It was like boom. It was like bang. I thought for sure like my Whopper Plopper was gone. I didn't think I'd even be able to bring it in, and I was surprised that I brought that thing in. And what I read was that the reason that they fight so hard is because they're capable of breathing water and air, and so even if like you get them out of the water, they can still breathe and fight. They do have teeth. That was one of my big concerns because I didn't know. I'm mainly a bass fisherman. I know not to grab a pickerel or a pike or a muskie like a bass, but this thing I wasn't sure, and it wasn't until I like kind of got it halfway up on shore and I looked in its mouth and I saw some teeth. And like if you're somebody who's on blood thinners or something like that, you don't want to stick your fingers in its mouth anyway because you could be going for stitches. But if you're on blood thinners or something like that, you could be a bleeding individual. And so yeah, don't grab them by the mouth. It's not a good idea. And then one thing that I thought was really interesting was like they're extremely sensitive to their environment. And I know like a lot of times like we look at like those kinds of fish like the bowfin and carp and catfish, and we want to get rid of them. Like we think they're junk fish, but they're really not. I mean, like those fish are like they're native to this area. The bowfin's native to this area. So why would we want to eradicate the bowfin? I mean, and it's a native species, and they're saying in one of the articles that I read about it was like they are so sensitive to our environment that like fish biologists actually look at the bowfin, like they study the bowfin, because they know that if the bowfin population is dropping, if the bowfin in a certain body of water, if that bowfin population is unhealthy, then they know the water is unhealthy. So like the bowfin basically like they're a big like indicator of what our environment is like. So anyway, that's what I've like dug up on a bowfin. I don't expect to become like any kind of a bowfin expert, and I'm probably not going to go out and fish bowfin exclusively because I caught one in my entire life, and I don't even think that I could catch another bowfin like on purpose if I wanted to. Although I did read that like I think that I read that like they do, even though they'll go for any kind of a fish, like they'll go for a bait, for a lure, like a popper, top water, anything like that, because they're a predator. They're really like kind of like, I think what did I read, like chicken liver, I think, or something like that. So maybe like if you really wanted to catch one, that might maybe go use like catfish tactics or something like that. But anyway, that's what I got on a bowfin, and I just kind of like wanted to close this on a little bit of information that I had gathered up for the bowfin species. And because I had only ever caught one, so it just sort of like triggered my interest. So now I learned something about bowfin, and it was a great fight and fish. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't the bass that I wanted, but hey, I mean, it was a good fight. It was fought harder than a pike. I can't say that it fights as hard as a big muskie, but fought harder than any bass. We watched the video, and I didn't even I was kind of thinking that it was a bass, only because I was hoping that it would be a bass, but it wasn't. It was a bowfin, and it was fighting its ass off and made me tired. So anyway, that's what I got on a bowfin. I had a good day, and that's it. I'm Darren, and you've been watching my YouTube channel, Fishing Small Waters.